Good afternoon and welcome to another episode of Unscripted and Unchained RPG Review. I am DM Bluddworth, and as you can see by the graphics, today I'm going to be taking a look at an RPG resource by Dezign, and it is how to create your own fantasy RPG adventures. So this is a supplement that can be found on DriveThruRPG. Currently, it's only in PDF, and it does have a $22 price point here, and so originally I was like, whoa, that's a lot for a PDF, but that was prior to me discovering that it is 350 pages long, and when you see the contributors, you're going to see that this is a value loaded PDF, even at that price point. But I am looking forward to when this comes out in soft cover or print on demand, because I will jump on that very quickly, even at a higher price point, because it is jam packed. Now, when I talk about jam packed, it's kind of funny because my friend Matthew Bogdan, who wrote wrote most of this and really compiled the other pieces from various authors, and you'll see that long and illustrious list. Um, he said, well, this is for beginner DMs to actually, learn how to write their own adventures. And there's a lot of advice and tips in there. And so he really didn't think that it would be something that I could find useful. And in 350 pages, there is going to be a ton of things that even I am going to find very useful in there. I told him, don't give me too much credit. Even though I've been writing my own adventures for a very long time, decades in fact, and I only just recently began publishing some of those adventures. I'm currently working on one now that I will be publishing, but there's always something new that you can learn from another set of eyes and another set of experiences, and that's one thing that you should always have in your mind. It's a piece of wisdom, and that's having true wisdom, is to realize that no matter how old you are, you can learn new things and better ways of doing things. So without further ado, let's jump right into that. And I am going to switch views here. And so here we have how to create, and I'll make this a little bit larger. Now, please excuse my coughing. It's the reason why I didn't do this the other day. I was actually going to do this video on Friday before I realized that it was 350 pages long, and before the springtime allergies really kicked in. So how to create your own fantasy adventures or RPG adventures. James M. Ward, Leonard Lakofka, which had passed away recently. So just to have him as a contributor here, I'm sure is a huge benefit and bonus to the product. John Four, Steve Crompton, another really important name in tabletop RPGs. Dean Spencer, Chet Minton, Steve Gaudreau, Kevin Watson, Matthew A. Bogdan. Kind of interesting that he's the primary writer of this, or compiler of this, and he doesn't give himself top billing, which actually says quite a lot about his character as well. Rick Hershey, Troy E. Daniels, Lucas Palasari, Egg Embry, David Guile, which I've known David now for quite some time as well, and had many chats with him, and really great guy, excellent game designer. I have some of his stuff as well. And so he's another person that you'd want to look around and see what he has out there. Uh, John Bolin, Dan Smith, Lee Newman, and Dark by Design. Okay, so here are the 5e credits. Here are the overall credits. So there's the primary author, Matthew A. Bogdan, and then the proofreading and so on. And there's the Pathfinder credits as well, or things. So why was this project created? The main reason this book was created is that I wanted to learn as much as I could by tapping into the brains and ideas of other creators from every level. I have been fascinated by the inner workings of the RPG industry since I was 10, and in the early 80s, I would look at the credits in the old modules and imagine myself doing what those creators were doing. I was exactly in the same place that Matthew is in here. It was always my dream to be a writer for or a game designer for TSR when I was a kid as well. The other reason I wrote this book was to help others with their similar quests. My fascination extended in every conceivable direction, and I wanted to provide a basic introductory service. This guide could potentially help people have a better chance of successfully publishing their own projects and turning them into publications they love and their growing fan base would love as well. There are so many pieces of advice that I have picked up from sources of other creators, also by simply observing. Many people on Facebook will share whatever crosses their minds, and the ones that have offered helpful tips were the ones that I remembered. I recall one creator that would show up in my newsfeed all the time. He mentioned having 7 failed Kickstarter projects, and this sincerely made me incredibly sad. I have had never taken a delight in another person's sufferings, and this was no exception. At the time, I had a couple of successfully funded Kickstarter projects under my belt, and I had made a public statement on my own page regarding feeling genuinely terrible to see others that have not had better luck with their creations. By the end of the day, despite my most sincere and sad feelings, this person deleted me as a friend. Despite this, I felt worse and worse, as the material that was being created by him was not bad by any means. It showed true promise, in my opinion, and if this fellow had zero talent, I would have still felt bad. This creator's failures were very hard for me to swallow. All right, and so you can see that this is a genuine love for the hobby, and trying to encourage others to engage in the hobby as a developer or as a writer of adventures, and just to give helpful hints on how to break in to the hobby at that level and be successful. Over several months, I had received several inbox messages from backers that praised my work, and these were from highly intelligent people that I thought had some great ideas. I could not help but think to myself how I could provide some semblance of genuine help to others. The ideas that would not anoint me as a teacher per se, but would involve me sharing a collection of tried and proven tips that other creators have filled me in over the last several years. I then put together a list of candidates that were both friends and strangers alike, but all good creators regardless. Ultimately, there was a short list of writers, a DM tips master, an RPG adventure reviewer, several artists, and more. I wanted to get the contributors from every professional experience level as well as a varying level of fame. The vast majority of the people that I asked were quickly interested and came on board. A couple of people fell off the ship, but I did not take it personally, of course. I then reached out to these people, and I was thrilled when these creators agreed to contribute to this book. And I already read through many of these names. Reading the daily pieces of advice from these creators made it quite obvious that these people had to say was not only in high regard by thousands of people, but the content that they provided would be truly beneficial for hundreds of new and aspiring creators. This book is designed for beginning creators, and I laugh because it's like I was really not expecting such a huge volume, and so and that's not a bad thing. It just requires that we chunk this down, and so this is going to be a multiple video series highlighting this particular product. So I'm going to move on and start taking a look at some of the actual components of it. And you can always go and take a look at the PDF on your own. I encourage you to do so. Don't let the sticker shock, hit you. Realize that this is 350 pages of jam-packed tips and hints and everything, so it will be a great expenditure if you're looking to break into writing adventures and actually publishing them, or just writing for RPGs in general. It could be game design as well. So he now introduces himself, and he goes through and talks about some of the games that he has played in the past. And once again, he has also mentioned, Matthew has also mentioned that he has several successful Kickstarters under his own belt. Let me just try to... So here we have, sorry about that little delay. So here we have The Anatomy of Adventure, a cover. And so they go into talking about the necessities of a cover. So The Anatomy of an Adventure. Table of contents, the introduction, anatomy of adventure, elements of an adventure. Then we go into James Ward and his writing, then Leonard Lakofka and old school creator, and go through his and so on. So we will take a look at a few of these right from the start. So about this adventure. So it's talking about a particular adventure that that I'm assuming that Matthew had written for the Pathfinder compatible systems. Actually, for both 5e and Pathfinder. But once again, many of these adventures that are, I would categorize as being OSR can easily be modified to match up with any of their, any game system that you happen to be using, as long as it's somewhat based on the same genre. So if you're doing a high fantasy RPG, then any of those can easily be modified, or this module can be modified to use for those. So the Ghosts of Castle Nevermoor, and he goes through and talks about it. So this is kind of the forward of his adventure. This page is designed for the GM, admin, or referee. This page includes what the GM should expect, who the adventure is for, which game system the adventure is for, and any additional bits of information a GM may choose to share. This page is not an absolute necessity, but the vast majority of publishers are using it in the adventures these days. And I agree with that. Sometimes I write in my adventures kind of the rationale for, or the inspiration that I had for writing the particular adventure that I'm doing. And I'll also spend time with this kind of a page in explaining any slight rule changes that I use for the system. So any homebrew tweaks that I have made, for that particular system, or just ideas on how it can be used for a variety of systems as well, which is something that he does here. So it's a very good idea to have this out there as usually your second or third page in the booklet. Now you can see he's going through and talking about the cover, and covers are very important. Your front cover should be engaging and well designed. Brand new custom art is desirable, but it's not always available due to budgetary reasons, and that is a big issue, especially if you're starting to come out on your own. So sometimes it's hard to find an exact picture for what you're looking for, and it's hard as a beginner, and certainly as if you're doing it solo, you're doing it all by yourself and doing everything. I can tell you from experience, even layouts is a difficult thing for someone who's not very familiar with them. And obviously Matthew is good at this, kind of thing, and so he's coming up with very professional looking adventure covers. I am certainly not at that same level. So again, to point out that this is not this is something that I can learn from. The credits, and this is where he puts seems like he puts it fairly early on, the credits, or the OGL, so credits for D&D 5e, and then he does the credits for Pathfinder. I tend to put those at the back, but you must have these someplace in your in your product, otherwise it will get rejected, and they'll tell you. And I missed one line one time in a cut and paste, and drive through. My mentor on drive through actually contacted me and said, "Hey, you missed this line 15 in the Wizards of the Coast OGL, and you need to include that." And once I included that, then it passed through and was published. And from that point on, I was just able to cut and paste the entire page, and I haven't had a problem since then. Table of contents are usually very useful, even if it's a short adventure. You want to have a table of contents just to break it down, so that the DM can jump right into various sections of the adventure. Even if it is, like I said, a short adventure, it's still very helpful to have one. A description on how to use the adventure, and it might talk about the stat blocks and such. Again, something that I do, and it's something that's important to let the player know, or let the GM know. This is how the layout or formatting of the adventure is, so that you understand. If it's in the box, that is something that you read to the players. If it's a shadowed in box, then that's a stat block. If it's open text, so it's not in any kind of a box, or it's just open text, That's just for the DM to read and then to follow those instructions. I'll also do things for, this is a, for the DM, or, for the players, and so on. So how to use this adventure. This is another optional page, but it could help greatly if you are introducing something new and that is not familiar with anyone else in the TTRPG hobby or industry. In the case of this book, the brand new stat system was used. It would be almost disastrous to not include how to use this adventure page in the case such as this. All right, and he's absolutely right. If you are going to make any kind of rules changes, then that is very important to do. Background. So this is the background of the adventure. All right, and I had briefly mentioned this as well. The inspiration of the adventure. So let's see if we're on the same page here, because this is my first real flip through of this. I've been a bit under the weather the last 2 days, so I wanted to take a look at this and go in depth here now. So the Ghost of Castle Nevermoor takes place in 15 locations. The main location is where the party will stay for 2 weeks, at the notorious haunted Ravenscroft Manor. Ravenscroft Manor is a 5-level castle that is occupied by 13 Ravenscroft family members, 3 hired helpers, 3 ghost hunters, 40-plus soldiers, a handful of prisoners, and dear old Edgar himself. Oh, and did we mention the horde of ghosts that assailed Ravenscroft Manor on a nightly basis? 13 new and unique ghosts creep across the pages of this adventure, as well as a legion of other vile monstrosities. The other 14 locations are known as 14 otherworldly ghost lairs. The lairs in the realms are where the ghosts go to replenish themselves, heal, and plan their next merciless attacks. The players are supplied with several optional in-world resources to immerse, delight, and inform them. These optional real-world books, including Arogast's Spirit Summoning, the Grimoire, Miss Butterbur's Cookbook and Itinerary, Robert Ravenscroft, Last Will and Testament, and the Investigator's Guidebook. These resources allow the players to track their strange discoveries, follow a daily itinerary, and cast spells on ghosts so that these evil spirits can be slain permanently. While the Ghost of Castle Nevermoor is not a mystery per se, the players must find out who killed Robert Ravenscroft and why. If this is not discovered by the party, the most powerful ghost, Robert's ghost, may choose to collapse Ravenscroft Manor with everyone inside. All right, so you're basically telling, or he's basically telling the GM, this is what to expect, that is new, that is important for the running of this adventure, and here are the resources that you can provide your players with in order for them to have the best chances of success, but also to set out that if certain things are not done, these are the major consequences that can also occur. So it's kind of an instructional page for the GM or the DM in order to kind of know what this adventure is all about. So the actual adventure now. Anatomy of an adventure, the adventure. And here we have a map, the ground floor of the manor. Okay, so After a long pause, Edgar opens his copy of the Ghost Investigator's Guidebook and reads aloud. So this is going to talk about the elements that the players will be made aware of. So finally, the most fun part. This quite obviously takes up the bulk of the publication and contains all of the art, maps, diagrams, written content, handouts, etc. This is a 120-page free preview adventure that can be downloaded on DTRPG at the link shown below, and it's hyperlinked, so you can jump right into it, and I will certainly take a look at it as well and see, and then come back and compare it. But let's continue with our elements of a good adventure. Now, have we gone into a new category? Let's see. Yes, we have. So let's see. Let's go up through elements of a good adventure, and then we will save some of these components for the next video. So elements of a good adventure, we're coming up to. Opinions vary greatly on this topic. One of the very best books on the subject is The Tomb of Adventure Design by Matt Finch. Matt's book is more than likely the most viable source for what makes up great adventure. Matt's book paints in a very wide brush and covers pretty much everything in great depth. That said, I have my own philosophy that makes a great of what makes a great adventure. It all starts with knowing the likes and dislikes of the players in your campaign or the gaming group. If you are creating content for numerous buyers that you don't know, it is obvious that you need to appeal to what the market dictates. This can be done by observing the seemingly weekly trends that crop up on YouTube and the innumerable Facebook and other social media platform forum groups. I am a member of several, and reading what the fans of these groups think about current trends is invaluable for me and to others. I am more of the school that creates mostly for myself. No formula is followed, and the vast majority of my adventures are created intuitively. Taking some time to break down my adventures, I can say that first and foremost, I create adventures that I love. Here's a short list of the things that I love in a great adventure or fantasy campaign. A great backstory. What has gone on before? What is the history of the island the PCs have been prompted to explore? More importantly, why should the players care? What would realistically draw anyone to explore these fantastic locales? The adventure hook, I'm just going to summarize these very quickly. The adventure hook is what is the reason that draws the players and the PCs into the adventure? You should ask yourself this question: what is really good reason for a group of adventurers to explore a location? Sure, there is always the love for loot, hacking and slashing, kicking in doors, and graphic violence. But I try to incorporate all of those things, but reasons that appeal to human nature as well. Not every adventure is created with this in mind, and it does not get old when every adventure is undertaken because the party is offered a hefty reward to kill things. Some suggestions that may appeal to both the GM and the players' PCs are inheritances, land grants, forging alliances, social titles bestowed, prestige, mysterious invitations, handouts, a unique and intriguing magic relic, or eliminating dangers to their people. Player choices. This is the backbone of good adventure. What I like to do is introduce certain things that not only allow for choices, avoiding railroading as much as possible, but also getting all players involved by using full-page art handouts and a scene that has unfolded, riddles and players must solve, puzzles and opportunities for players to get into character and to do some good old-fashioned role-playing. This can be achieved by allowing the PCs to have multiple interactions with other intelligent beings. Even if you have very shy players that will never want to take part in any form of role playing, they can still always be a team player and make their own decisions. Interesting locations is another element of a good adventure. A variety of options, although difficult, the writer of an adventure can create adventures that could appeal to every character class possible. A simple list of all the unique skills that each character class offers will invariably prompt the types of encounters that an entire party can enjoy. A good mix of slashing, role-playing, puzzles, traps, tricks, facing arch villains, paladins versus anti-paladins are some of the fun ways to create a balanced adventure. Adding new content such as new spells and monsters and magic items and more, but the competition seems to grow every year. It is up to you, the creator, to dream up unique encounter types that cannot be found anywhere else. Interesting enemies provide fun and memorable adventures for all to enjoy. Achieving numerous goals is one of the most satisfying aspects for the players to enjoy. This can take the form of many things, including ridding a village of long-term threat, rescuing beloved villagers, clearing a trade route of bandits, anything that has a bona fide and realistic reason for being accomplished. The great climax, a dramatic climax that can either end in a fabulous success of devastating loss and destruction, may seem too steep for some, but you must remember that the greater the risk, the greater the rewards. All right, and by clearly defining what is at stake, it will be much easier to create a richly designed and epic climax for the PCs to face. Entertaining and fun. No doubt. Of course, you're gonna if your adventure is not entertaining and fun, it is not going to be a very good adventure. And so, it is important to just remind people of the fact that their adventures need to be entertaining and fun. And that's for you can't please everybody all the time, but you should make an effort to address some of the wants and needs of your players, and at least a rotational basis, and try to find ways to kind of interweave their goals, their individual goals, into one main goal. That way, they're all participating, and so it will more than likely be more entertaining and fun for everyone sitting at the table. Ultimately, the vast majority of us are not creating high literature with these adventures. If you receive consistent 4 or 5-star reviews and plenty of public and private comments applauding your works, then you are well on your way. Always try to improve. Your systems and tools will change constantly. Excuse me. Okay, so I am going to switch views here. So you can see already a lot of information there, a lot of helpful tips, and we've only just covered the first 2 sections, of this massive 350-page piece here, an RPG resource. So if you haven't had the chance to check out some of Matthew's things, I'm going to leave the link to his drive-through RPG in this section here. I will certainly be on the lookout for when this comes out in a print on demand, because I will certainly jump on that. As far as a resource, it's something that I can definitely see that I will turn to on multiple occasions. And some of the things that he brought out just in those first 2 parts are already things that, some of them I do, yes. As I stated, some of those I already do. But there's other elements that I need to do them a little bit better, a little bit more explicitly, and then putting it out there that this is the reason why this is being done this way, and then making sure that the more player involvement that you can get in the creative process of the adventure is also of a benefit here, and it's something that I could certainly focus a little bit more on, is to ask each of the players in the group, all right, well, what kind of next adventure is your character looking to do? And then to help use that information to inform where the next adventure is actually going to come from. Um, the other thing that I already do to a certain extent, and is I think about um, the entire or complete grouping of player characters that might be in there, and the one thing. So the one thing I also include is I like to include a lot of lore in my adventures, and I like to include uses for all of those adventure gear and things like that. I like to actually think about, well, if the player party has a 10-foot pole, what could they use that for in this adventure? If they have oil flasks, other than lighting things on fire, what are some uses that they can use for that? I like to encourage my players to think about adventure gear, and I try to make it in kind of a fun way. You can make those little knick-knack kind of items that you normally would just disregard in many cases, and come up with fun ways for them to actually utilize those. And that's certainly something that I'm doing in my current adventure, where the players are going to benefit from their characters having equipped some of those little things there. So it's going to it's going to be a lot of fun to take some of the ideas coming out of Matthew's book and utilize them currently that I'm writing an adventure. I'll be able to read more further into this big resource here and incorporate some of those into the adventure I'm writing. So once again, I hope you will like this video. Please give it a thumbs up if you have. If you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing. Check out check out Matthew's page on Drive-Thru. I am going to link that in the description of this video, and there will be additional parts to this video series. So once again, be on the lookout for uploads. I know I keep on saying I'm going to get them out there like every 2 or 3 days, and they've still been averaging around every 3 or 4 days. I'm just trying to find a time to get more videos out there. But once again, you can almost always guarantee that there'll be two per week, and hopefully I can get that production out to about 3 per week. The adventure that I'm writing is actually taking me some time because I am really thinking about this one. I want this one to be that kind of an adventure, like Matthew was explaining in his product. Something that's really going to stand out, and so it takes more in order to do that, and to take even a simple dungeon crawl and make it memorable is a commitment of time that could become very surprising, and that's basically what's happening with my current project, is that it is a basic dungeon crawl, and it's taking a life of its own because I'm putting that much detail into certain various things just to make it stand out. So once again, thanks for joining. I look forward to seeing you on the gaming screen sometime soon, and be on the lookout for the next video that will either be part 2 of this, or it might be gameplay of the Conan Tower of the Elephant board game that I picked up and do some solo gameplay, which I've been looking forward to actually getting that done and then videoing that as well. So thanks for joining. Have a great rest of the day. And as always, look forward to seeing you on the gaming screen and keep on playing. Take care.